Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a massive shift in the AI landscape, a shift that's actually hidden inside a seemingly simple pricing story. We're going to look at how one singular development just fundamentally altered the AI race, and it all revolves around the price of intelligence. Let's kick things off with a number, 3 cents. Yep, just 3 pennies. This incredibly tiny figure actually belongs to DeepSeek's newest model, V4 Flash. I want you to hold that tiny amount in your head for just a second.
Now, contrast that 3 cents with this second number, $1.86.
And finally, check out this third number, $3.15. Now, these aren't just random prices we pulled out of thin air. They're the costs of running today's absolute top-tier frontier models. And that enormous, gaping difference between them? Well, it might actually tell us way more about the future of artificial intelligence than just another benchmark score ever could.
So that brings us to the real mystery we're unraveling today. What exactly happens when frontier-level AI becomes dramatically, almost unbelievably cheaper to use? Like, if useful intelligence becomes this cheap, what happens to the whole ecosystem of companies that are currently spending billions, literally unprecedented billions, to build it?
Part 1, the price of intelligence. Let's really dig into what these figures represent, because understanding this math is absolutely crucial to unlocking where this whole industry is headed.
When we look at artificial analysis's cost per test methodology, the picture gets super clear. And this is important, right? Because we aren't just talking about a basic API sticker price here. By factoring in benchmark tasks, token usage, and the actual reasoning effort on an identical scale, we see an astonishing 105 times difference between these models. OpenAI's GPT-5.6 Sol comes in around $1.86 per test. Anthropic's Claude Fable, 5, that's about $3.15. But DeepSeek's V4 Flash is sitting way down at roughly 3 cents per test. I mean, how can the cost of artificial intelligence possibly differ that much?
Well, DeepSeek's underlying philosophy isn't just about being the cheapest option on the block. They are laser-focused on delivering the maximum useful intelligence per unit of compute. Their V4 Flash model, which, by the way, just hit public beta on July 31, 2026, boasts a massive 1 million token context window. It's specifically built for heavy workflows, even integrating with codecs. They aren't just slapping together another chatbot. They are engineering systems meant for intense, sustained work.
Moving on to part 2, the inference battleground. To really get why these costs are all over the map, we have to recognize that the industry is shifting out of the training phase and diving headfirst into real-world use. The absolute most crucial distinction to make here is the difference between training an AI and actually running it. Training is that monumental, wildly expensive process of creating the model in the first place. But inference, that is what happens every single time you use it. Every search query, every bit of code it writes, every automated workflow, that all consumes inference resources. And as AI usage scales globally, inference economics are what truly dictate which models survive in the wild. Think about it. A model that's, say, slightly smarter but 10 times more expensive, not automatically a win for business. A slightly less capable but dramatically cheaper model can actually be deployed across vastly more workloads.
You know, the AI race used to be all about who had the biggest model. Then it pivoted to who had the smartest model. But right now, it is fundamentally shifting to balancing intelligence, cost, speed, scale, and autonomy. The core question driving the entire industry today is simply this: who can deliver the most useful intelligence for the absolute least cost?
Which brings us to part 3, the rise of the AI worker. Because when you combine dirt-cheap inference with highly capable systems, what we actually ask AI to do totally transforms.
The basic unit of AI work is shifting from just generating a quick answer to completing an entire complex task. If an AI agent costs practically nothing to run compared to the value of the task it's doing, the whole economics of delegation get flipped on their head. Suddenly, businesses can unleash AI on long-horizon workflows. We're talking software testing, analyzing massive documents, cybersecurity, scientific research, and all sorts of repetitive knowledge work. As the cost of intelligence plummets, the sheer volume of tasks that are actually worth delegating completely skyrockets. Part 4, the global economics race. And look, it's not just one rogue company making this pivot. The entire global market is feeling this exact same economic pressure.
We can clearly see all the heavy hitters converging on the exact same challenge:
OpenAI is heavily positioning GPT-5.6 Sol around performance per dollar, Google is pushing hard on incredibly efficient Gemini models, Anthropic is tweaking Claude Fable 5 for frontier capabilities and agentic coding. Literally every major player is trying to solve this giant puzzle of taking incredibly expensive, bleeding-edge intelligence and turning it into an economically sustainable product at massive scale.
Plus, this isn't just a localized thing. This is a fiercely distributed global race. The landscape is intensely competitive right now. Just today, August 3, 2026, Alibaba threw their hat in the ring, launching their Qwen 3.8 Max model, adding yet another massive frontier competitor. From the US to Chinese powerhouses like Alibaba, Moonshot, and ByteDance, it is a global sprint where everybody realizes the endgame is all about the economics. All right, part 5, an abundance of intelligence. Let's take a step back here for a second and look at the massive, almost philosophical implications of this shift. Like, what does our world actually look like when intelligence is no longer a bottleneck?
It really highlights this great infrastructure paradox we're living through. On one hand, the industry is dropping unprecedented billions on physical stuff, GPUs, sprawling data centers, cooling systems, electricity grids. But on the flip side, all of that massive capital is specifically engineered to drive the cost of intelligence down to mere pennies. It sounds totally contradictory, right? Spending billions to charge cents. But making things hyper-efficient doesn't reduce the demand for compute, it actually explodes it. Because suddenly AI becomes economically viable for so much more.
So the logical consequence of this whole paradox is a future where organizations aren't just hiring thousands of human workers, but deploying thousands of software workers executing complex tasks 24/7. You mix falling inference costs with increasingly capable agents, and boom, you have digital workers researching, coding, analyzing, and monitoring nonstop. It really makes you wonder what happens to the value of human knowledge work when raw intelligence itself becomes this insanely cheap.
Now, we do have to impartially look at the dark side of all this abundance. The exact same economic forces that make useful AI incredibly accessible, they also make harmful AI drastically cheaper and way harder to contain. If you can automate a complex scientific workflow for pocket change, bad actors can automate cyber attacks, churn out mass misinformation, and run fraud schemes at that exact same massive scale. The cheaper intelligence gets, the harder it might be to monitor who uses it and exactly what they're using it for.
Coming full circle back to our initial discovery, this 3-cent figure isn't just about DeepSeek, and it's definitely not just a quirky pricing update. It is a massive, flashing neon sign signaling an acceleration in technological progress across the board. The number of AI agents is going to grow. Automated software production is going to grow. It represents the very real possibility that the cost of generating, deploying, and coordinating intelligence is just straight up collapsing.
So the biggest takeaway from this explainer is this. The ultimate winner of the AI race might not actually be the one who builds the smartest machine. It might just be the one who makes it so incredibly cheap that everyone can afford to use it. For decades, intelligence was completely constrained by the number of skilled humans we had available. AI changes that equation entirely. The price of intelligence is the new battlefield. Which leaves us with one final, profound question. What does our world look like when intelligence stops being scarce and becomes truly abundant?